Hello, so this video is going to be about how I moved back home at the age of 26 and why I moved back home at the age of 26. So I originally moved out when I was 21 years old, and looking back, this wasn't the best decision because I wasn't yet mature enough and I lacked knowledge on the world, and I wasn't quite ready to move out and be on my own. And because of these things, I made the poor decision of not vetting the place that I was moving to, and I ended up moving into ghetto apartments. I moved into a one-bedroom studio apartment in the ghetto, and I dealt with issues such as roaches. I dealt with rude and unprofessional leasing office employees. I dealt with hearing gunshots outside of my home. After a while, I got used to my living situation and it became second nature to me. But I did make several missteps while living there, and a lot of those mistakes I made, I will be making videos about. But the misstep that I made that pertains to me moving out is that I got two different pets. I got a cat and a dog. The cat was a tabby and the dog was a pit bull. And the problem was that I didn't have a lot of time to take care of these pets because I was working two jobs. And there was other things going on too at the time. So my home ended up looking very bad and very filthy. And there was one point where it looked so bad that it looked like a crack house. So I started working on giving my pets away to people who could take better care of them. And I eventually did give them away and get them out of the home. And afterwards, I fixed up my house and cleaned it up, and it looked a lot better. The roach problem at the time had gotten horrendous to the point where it was horrific. But after cleaning and fixing the apartment up, it got to the point where it was halfway okay again. It was still really bad, very disruptive, but it wasn't as bad. But I noticed after this era in my life that I started hearing rustling in my drawers at night in my room. And at first I dismissed this and didn't really think about what it could be or what it was. But then two of my previous roommates pointed out that they saw a mouse in my room. And from here I was like, okay, so I have mice in my house. And from there, I continued to dismiss it. And I was like, as long as I didn't see it, like, I'd be good and it'd be cool. So I continued to live with them and be okay with it because I didn't see them. But after a while, I began to rationalize with myself. And I was like, hey, like, if I see these things, I know I'm going to freak out and I'm not going to be able to function in this home. So I finally broke and I decided to work on moving back home. And my mother had wanted me to move back home for a long time, but I always refused because of my ego and being afraid of being perceived as a bum or a loser or not an adult. So I kept on dealing with the issues that I was dealing with. But at some point, I was like, I don't have to deal with these issues anymore. And I can come back and do what I should have did 5 years ago and put myself in a position where I never have to move back in with her again. So I decided to finally do it. I left everything there because of the roach infestation. I only brought important documents. I left my viola, my keyboard, I left 99% of my art, and I left like all of my furniture. Um, and I dipped, and I would say that after I moved and finally came back home, I felt a great sense of relief because I was no longer living in that crappy living situation and I wasn't dealing with the problems that I was dealing with. But I felt a great sense of shame as well. And I often felt as if like maybe I should have like just man up and brought some mouse traps and mouse poison and stuff and got rid of the mice and stuff. But I was already working on getting rid of the roaches and on top of getting rid of the mice and stuff, and then also knowing these are things I don't even really necessarily have to deal with. I was like, you know what, I'm just gonna start over. I'm not gonna do this. Like, I'm gonna work on rebuilding my credit and my finances and fix everything else that I ruined over the last 5 years. And that's what I decided to do. And really, overall, I moved out way too soon. Like, and the reason why I did was because at the time I was paranoid that I would become dependent on my mother. So I was adamant about moving out and being on my own. And my advice to any young person between 18 and 21 who's experiencing similar insecurities is just don't move out if you don't have to and nobody's pushing you to move out. Build your career, build your finances, and make sure that when you do finally move out, you never have to move back in. For the people who are in the mid 20s like me who had to move back home, just know this isn't the end of the world and that it's okay to lean into family as a support system sometimes. I know in the Western world it isn't as widely accepted, but I think that it is ultimately not that bad. And I think it's okay to like start over and just know that like you're only gonna move up from here. And I wish you all the best and until next time.